involuntary lethal injection or something, just kill them.
Billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something, just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right, I would say this, we're not voting for the right people. In North Carolina, wake up.
We're going to get to the apology that Brian Kilmeade put out like 4 days later after that. But it is wild to me that he called for unhoused people who don't take whatever resources that other guy is saying they should to just be put down like wild animals. And Ainsley Earhardt was just like continuing on. What? I like to think that if JR called, he's my co-host today, called for millions of people to be murdered by the state, I'd pause and do a follow-up question, but no. For Fox and Friends, evidently that's not a part of it. It's just, these are undesirables, and so they'll all be put down by the power of the state. And that is so grotesque, and in particular, that had happened in a time when people are literally losing their on-camera jobs for being mean about the news. Brian Kilmeade's like, hold my beer, I'm gonna call for forced mass euthanization. And he only put out an apology literally days later. Now I'm gonna read it, we're gonna be fair here. He said, I wrongly said that they should get lethal injections. I apologize for that extremely callous remark. I am obviously aware that not all mentally ill homeless people act as the perpetrator did in North Carolina, and that so many homeless people deserve our empathy and compassion. So he seems to be implying that only the ones that might be potentially dangerous should be murdered by the state, not all of them. I guess that's better in some way, I suppose, but you did still call for mass murder. And I'm barely even, I saw some, like unhoused advocates calling for him to lose his job. That hasn't gone anywhere. Nobody seriously thinks he's going to be suspended, let alone fired. And by the way, just for context, here is what Matthew Dowd said that got him almost immediately canned within one day. Hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. You can't stop with these sort of awful, that's you have, and then saying these awful words, and then not expect awful actions to take place. Which, to be clear, I would never say anything like that. It seems to imply that pundits should expect that if they say terrible things, they'll probably get murdered. I don't want to live in a country where we expect that. So I don't think that Matthew Dowd should have worded it in that way. But he wasn't calling for murder. Brian Kilmeade was literally calling for murder. And JR, Kilmeade is like one of those that every once in a while says something kind of reasonable, which is why it seems even stranger. Like this is something I'd expect like Jesse Waters to say or something. But Kilmeade is just, I guess he made his brief apology or whatever, and I guess he's good now. What do you think?
That apology also ended with him saying, right back to you, Lawrence. It was so very newsy, and I'm reading this script off this prompter that a chat GPT wrote up for me. He said he obviously, it's obvious. I'm obviously aware that not all mentally ill homeless people act as the perpetrator did. Why is that obvious? Why is anything you say obvious when it has anything to do with normalcy or compassion? Because what this has become is the normalization of Nazi behavior, Nazi activities. So you can keep saying that anytime folks identify what Nazis and fascists did, clearly and obviously in a very recent history, if you show that when Stephen Miller says, we should suspend due process, and when Donald Trump said we don't have any use for this Constitution anymore, and people say, yo, that's fascism. And then they say, well, why are you calling names? If you keep ignoring the clear indications of fascism, fascism will become the norm. And what the norm of fascism looks like is Brian Kilmeade working for state television, saying things like, let's kill all these homeless people with what do you say?
Involuntary lethal injection.
Involuntary lethal injections. Do you know the Nazis did that? Do we also know that the Nazis also went after folks that they claimed were too autistic for society to have to deal with? Meanwhile, we have RFK Jr. attacking autistic people and taking away many of our own health advantages because they're going after the unfavorables in our society. We've already got people in gulags and in internment camps. It's almost like when you do Nazi things and someone identifies you as a Nazi, you can't turn around and say, look at that violent rhetoric, when all you've been doing is pushing violent rhetoric. And so are we supposed to just let our friends who in our communities who we know have fallen on hard times or on the streets, or veterans who've had their safety nets taken away? Suddenly we don't care about those folks. They should be lethally injected. Brian Kilmeade should have been fired the second after that. They should have blacked out the screen and taken his ass off the air right then. But instead, we're giving him the benefit of the doubt. I saw some headline from some page that said Brian Kilmeade suggests there should be lethal injection. He said it.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Sorry, continue.
No, I'm done, man. I'm done.
You're 100%
so
right.
Of this.
I don't often get to say this. That was worse than most of what Trump says. Like, we expect Trump's the worst, right? He says the worst, most violent things. No, that Kilmeade thing, that was more cold-blooded than how Trump talks about the You're right, I was not going hard enough. How was he not immediately fired? Like imagine if I was like, billionaires, they do a lot of evil stuff. They should be able to give up their wealth, and if not, they should all be put down like rabid dogs. Imagine if I said that on the air. Do you think that I would still have my job? He called for them to be poisoned to death. And he's fine. He's just fine. He's gonna make $10 million, $20 million this year to call for that stuff. And again, by the way, we made this very clear last week that regardless of what the ideology of the shooter ends up being, I am not going to stop accurately labeling movements for what they are. It is still a fascist movement. That is what it is. And Jayar is totally right. If you don't want to be called a Nazi, stop speed running your Nazi bucket list, okay? Stop doing exactly the things that the Nazis did. And by the way, as your president is calling for effectively the Democratic Party and its donors and its organizations to all be outlawed, which is again, highly authoritarian.
If we're gonna have these smart debate conversations that everybody always wanted to have, and that they say this guy was all about exhibiting and his life's blood was behind, how about we have a debate and talk about how clear as day, have a direct comparison to the Nazi agenda that's being carried out right now compared to the same Nazi agenda that was carried out in 1930s and 40s. It's stark, you cannot deny it. The way that once they're cornered with that obvious information is to say, how dare you? That's not an argument, that's a submission, bro. You've lost. So, I mean, again, that's why I don't have these conversations with folks. They're just telling you, we don't want conversations, we don't want to get to a better place. We want an authoritarian rule over you. We want you dead.